Hi, it's Lucy here, and today we're recycling. I'm going to use this cereal box, and firstly I'll cut off all the manky bits and just keep the flat cardboard. I'll use items from this kit and I'll have a link to it below in the description. I've die cut some items from the cardboard, and don't worry if you don't have these items, they're all basic shapes and can be cut by hand or with a trimmer. And I'll show you here how to add paper to your card if you don't have the die cut to cut the exact size shape. I add double-sided tape to the card front, then turn it over to add the paper, then cut around the card, and it perfectly fits the card front. You can of course use your trimmer if you don't have a knife and ruler, or you feel like you're a little bit dangerous with a knife. So now to get on to making the card, and I'm going to use this recycled banner. I die cut this, but you can just cut a rectangle, then snip up the center and cut from the bottom edge into the center cut to create the banner. I'm going to die cut this birthday sentiment die I just bought from scrapbook.com, and there's a link to them below if you like them. It has a shadow as well, so I've die cut the sentiment with the cardboard and just used white card for the sentiment shadow. I'll glue together and I'll add them to the card. I have a few different tips along the way while making these mail cards, and also at the end of this video, so I hope you'll keep watching to see what we can do combining recycling and card making. I'll play around with some elements I've cut from the papers and creative cuts from that kit I showed earlier, and I'll add them to the card too. I'm adding some of the scrap cardboard to go underneath this banner cluster so it sits higher. If you don't want to use cardboard showing on your card like I have with these cards today, you can always use it instead of foam tape. You can layer up a couple of pieces for really good height on some of your elements, or just to keep them less even with each other. I'll add some Nuvo drops here, and then this card is finished, and it was super simple. Those clusters work really great on these sort of cards to make it really quick and easy, and you don't have to do any of the heavy lifting of thinking about how to cluster them all together. Now you may be thinking that this card is finished, but it's not. Have you ever done this? I mucked around with the card after I'd added those drops, which is a big mistake. I smudged some of them, so now it's time to add another embellishment to hide my mess. I added a leafy element, and I love how the green works on this card. It looks brighter and better in my opinion, and I love it when that happens. It's like a happy accident. I'm just going to add a little button element, and I've used a little bit of the cardboard underneath that as well so that it sits up a bit higher, just to finish off that area. And then the card is almost done. I'm going to put a little border in the top right hand corner as well, because I feel like that looks a little plain, and then the card will be finished. For this next card, I'm going to add the recycled cardboard to the whole card front. I've cut a piece of pattern paper to the same size as well, and I'll tear that in half. I want to use the top half, so I'll tear it with the bottom piece coming towards me so I get that great white edge to the torn paper. I'm going to add another layer of cardboard to the top piece so it stands out above the cardboard piece more and gives a nice shadow effect. I've used the same sentiment and shadow again, and this time I've used the pattern paper for the shadow so it blends with the top paper. I feel like there's not enough going on at the bottom of the card, so I'm going to do the same below as I did at the top, and that way the cardboard will just be peeking through in the middle of the card. I die cut the paper, keeping in the strip at the bottom of the pattern paper. Usually this is a throwaway piece. It just has the name of the company and paper name on it, but Uniquely Creative often have usable items such as sentiments or paper strips like this one on the bottom, so everything can be used, and I just think that's amazing. I'm going to add a strip of cardboard underneath the birthday part of the sentiment so it sits at the same height as the pattern paper. If I don't do this, the sentiment will sit awkwardly and it will change the whole look of the card. I think one big difference between a polished professional looking card and a homemade looking card is if everything is sitting at the right height on the card and looking nice and even. All these card designs can be used with any pattern papers and can be transformed into female cards too, using more feminine papers and items as well. My last bonus card that I ended up doing is using pretty much all cardboard, and it turns out very girly. So I'll use the cardboard underneath the embellishments again for a bit of height. And when I'm adding the embellishments, if I cut them up because they're hanging off the card, I usually like to add that leftover bit to another area of the card. There's always a spot for them, and this way I don't keep small bits of items. I'll add some glossy accents to the cardboard sentiment. This is such a great way to transform cardboard into a really lovely embellishment. I love glossy accents, and a bottle of it goes such a long way. I've had mine for years and I've only just bought a new one last week before I run out of it. I'll use my black pen to doodle around the card. I feel another black element was required to match the black and white striped paper at the bottom of the card. And then this is another card finished, and I think these make really great masculine cards. What do you think? And now onto the third card, and this time I'm going to use the strips. I'm going to cut out a piece of scrap paper to just over the size I need, as I want to be able to cut off the messy edges at the end. I'm not measuring anything, so it doesn't matter what size your card is either. I've used a long strip die set from scrapbook.com, and I have the link to it below. I'm going to add some double-sided tape here, and again I have links to everything in the description below if you're interested. And I'm just going to start adding the strips to the scrap paper. You can cut strips yourself with a trimmer or a knife, but the professionalism that the dies give to the strips is so good. It gives them very slightly rounded edges all along each side. So if you try this technique without a strip die, you may not get that same effect. But just know it's not your fault. If it doesn't come out looking as good, it's the dies that make it look so good. You can also use different widths of strips as well, so you could do skinnier ones or make them even bigger. You could vary them as well. I've just decided to go for a uniform look with this one. And now here's the finished card again. So not all cereal boxes are equal though. I found this other cereal box is quite creamy and off-putting in colour, but you can still use it. You can ink it any colour you like. I've used this flower die set and I've used 2 Distress Oxide inks, Wilted Violet and Peeled Paint. And this card came together in minutes. The whole card, apart from the gold sentiment, was created with just cereal box, which is amazing, hey? Have you tried this before or used something unusual in your crafting? I love hearing about it. So after inking, I'll spray it with water, which has some perfect pearls added to it for a lovely subtle shimmer. I just bought a cheap spray bottle and made my own shimmer spray this way, and it lasts forever. I'll give it a few seconds to absorb before wiping off the excess water with a tissue. And I'm going to manipulate the petals so they don't lie flat on the card and look a little bit more realistic and pretty. For the largest die, I'm going to bend the petals in both directions alternately just to see how they will look. I have here a clean lollipop stick. I bought a big bag of them once at a $2 store, and I love using these to bend butterfly wings and petals and anything that needs to have a smooth bend in it. They're great for that. Once I've done that, I'll add some foam dots to give extra height between the petals and to make the flower a main feature on the card. And then I can add just a purple pearl to the center of it to finish it off. I didn't ink all the petals the same either. Some have more saturated ink than others to give more interest on the flower. Now onto the banner, and I'll use old paper Distress Oxide ink to give it a much nicer colour. I'll use this domed ink foam pad to quickly cover the whole banner, and I'll spray it again using my Perfect Pearls and water spray bottle and dab off the excess too. So I'll add it to the card front with double-sided tape. And I have this fun grunge style die, but it can be used for any theme, and I think it'll go lovely underneath the flower. So I'm going to white heat emboss the cardboard so it's a lovely white colour. If you're new to heat embossing, I'll quickly go through the steps as it's very easy. You'll need a Versamark embossing pad and saturate the die with it. This will make it sticky so the embossing powder sticks to it. And once it's covered in embossing powder, I'll pop it in the box and heat with my heat gun. The box comes in handy as it doesn't burn, and yet it holds my items in place and stops embossing powder going everywhere on my desk. I do love watching it change from powder to liquid, and if you find it hasn't totally covered the first time around, you can always do this step again in just the parts that you missed. So now to choose which way up. I love how this die can be used either way around and even vertically if you wanted to as well. I'll pop some glue on the back and add it to the card, and I'll put this block on to flatten it down and onto the card while the glue dries. And while that's drying, I'll go ahead and add some foam strips to the gold sentiment I found in my stash. I'm going to add a lot of glue to the back of this flower. I don't want it going anywhere. I use glue from a hardware store. I buy the Aquadare glue from Bunnings. It sticks pretty much anything. I buy a big bottle and refill my little metal tipped bottle up when required. And here's the finished card using just a cereal box. I love using a mixture of new products, my old stash and recycling. It's a total win all around. I also created a tag. Here's the difference in the colours of the cereal box cardboard. They're quite different, aren't they? The nice one on the left can definitely be used instead of craft paper. It's a similar colour. The cardboard helped make it quite stiff like a tag, so it worked really well adding it to the back side of the pattern paper with glue. But if you don't have a tag die like this, you can just cut a rectangle, then chop off 2 corners on an angle, and that's pretty much a tag. If you do like this tag set, the link is below and it comes with more included as well. It also comes with a hole protected die as well, which I think is great. You could even create a card using those alone. Maybe I'll do that. So I hope you loved watching this video and that it gave you some design ideas and ways to look at different items in your home that you could recycle. Please let me know if you did enjoy this video so I know to make more of this kind. I'd so appreciate you giving this video a thumbs up if you liked it too. It really helps YouTube know it's a good video. I love reading your comments, and if you'd like to see more of my videos, please subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to click the notifications bell if you want to be notified when I add a new video too. So happy crafting and bye for now.